Hey fishing brothers and sisters, Zach Draskovic here. Today I'm going to show you my favorite lures for the spawn and how I use them. Alright, going from top to bottom, my first bait of choice is going to be some kind of prop bait. This is the Depth Spiral Minnow, great bait. A devil's horse also works very well. If I'm fishing an area where I think there's going to be some beds, but I can't see down into the water very well, I'm going to check that area out with a prop bait if there's not a lot of grass. Now, if there's grass, I love fishing primrose this time of the year. And in that primrose, or if there's a lot of floating grass or emergent grass coming up, I'm going to use a frog. And if there's some good holes, I'm going to use a popping frog. If the grass is too thick to get a popping frog through to get to the hole, then I'm going to change to just a regular mat style frog and twitch it, walk it in place over where I think that bed's going to be. My next bait of choice going down into the water column is going to be a trick worm. And this specific worm, you got to think pink during the spawn. I don't know why they hit this thing, but bass hate the pink trick worm during the spawn. You can see I do not have it rigged straight. When you're using this thing, make sure you rig it with a kink in it. It's going to give it some erratic action, some spirals, and put a swivel up your line so you don't twist up your whole spool. But a trick worm is great to use during the spawn. Now this is just a regular 4/0 worm hook. I'll go up to a 5/0 and sometimes use an EWG if I'm using that Magnum. Sometimes the thickness of the Magnum trick worm will gum up your bend and keep you from getting a good hook in those fish. A pink trick worm is absolutely deadly around spawning fish. Alternatively, if this trick worm is not getting bit, if they're not reacting to that pink, you can just put on a Senko, and a Senko can be absolutely deadly all times of the year, but during the spawn, just a green pumpkin Senko, looks like them bluegill that are harassing those bass in the beds, and they will tear up a Senko if you have some bedding fish in the area. All right, as we go to the bottom, if I'm fishing an area that I think there's beds in, but I still can't see the bottom, I'm gonna be covering water using the old Ultra Vibe speed worm. This is just a Zoom Ultra Vibe speed worm. You can use your favorite swimming style worm, but I'm just gonna put this on a Texas rig, and I'm not gonna slowly drag it on the bottom until I'm in a high percentage area. If I think there's beds in the area, I'm gonna cast, and I'm gonna be reeling that thing pretty quick along the bottom until I feel shell. And when I feel shell, I'm going to kill it, and I'm going to start that traditional slow drag across the bottom. Alternatively, instead of using a speed worm, man, a lizard can be deadly around spawning fish. I don't know what the lizard represents. I don't see too many salamanders crawling around the bottom on Lake Gunnersville, but let me tell you, that lizard can do some damage. Now, if you're coming across bedding fish, sometimes with this worm, you'll start just getting tailed. If they've been messed with a lot, especially if they're in a negative mood, you'll feel bites, set the hook, and come in with a tailless worm. And in that situation, I would change from a worm to a creature style bait. Once I locate some beds with my eyes, if I can visibly see the beds, if the beds are shallow enough for me to see clearly, that's when I'm going to start breaking out my sight fishing rigs. For spawning bass, if I can see the beds clearly, is just a drop shot rig. And I'll typically have a little bit of a longer leader on my drop shot because what I want is that weight to be in the grass. A lot of times there'll be enough grass around that bed or enough cover to where you can leave that weight outside of the bed, and you can just keep twitching that worm right in place, and that'll really aggravate those bass that bait just not going anywhere. So if you need to really milk a bed, drop shot is very hard to beat. Now on the very bottom for sight fishing, I cannot take credit for this. My dad came up with an ingenious method for catching these spawning fish. What he does is use just a plain Texas rig, but he likes to use a little screw lock hook on the Texas rig, and he likes throwing it on a swing head, but you can use it with just a regular Texas rig. The screw lock is what's important here, because these spawning fish, something about bass, just like people, have different personalities, and not all of the spawning fish are going to react to the same lures and the same colors. So what he'll have a bait on one of these screw lock hooks, and have a bunch of baits just laid out on his deck. Now when you're targeting spawning fish, you'll want something visible, like something pink or chartreuse, white. Have a couple different bright colors, or something blue, something very visible. One, because that'll agitate the fish and you can get a reaction strike from them. And two, having that something bright, once that bright lure disappears, it's time to set the hook. Having something bright is important, and having something natural colored, something small, just like a beaver, something that's a good bluegill imitator, is something else you have to have on deck. You have to have a bluegill colored creature bait on deck when you're targeting these spawning fish, so you can just quickly, this screw lock allows you to quickly change. So you can go blue, switch over, go natural, you can go pink or white, and keep trying to agitate these fish, seeing what they're reacting to. And be sure when you're throwing this rig, you're going past the bed, because these fish are shallower than what they'd usually be, and they're a little spooky. So if you land right on the bed, you might ruin your chances of catching that fish. Pay attention when you're casting at these bed fish. There will be a sweet spot on that bed that he will not like anything to be in that area. So cast at different parts of the bed and see if that makes a difference in how the fish is acting. You are throwing in the right area, or throwing the right color, because that fish will start swimming in tighter and tighter circles. The first time you bring a bait through there, he might swim off and circle back around. And he's going to start doing tighter and tighter circles. He'll start flaring those gills out, and that's when you're getting them agitated, and that fish is fixing to bite. One last trick: if you've thrown a lot of colors at the fish and you can't seem to get them in the mood to eat, pick up a big glide bait or other type of big swim bait, and work that big bait around the bed. Sometimes that big bait will get them agitated and put them in the mood to eat your plastic. Follow this system I showed you today, and I am confident that you will improve your success during the spawn. Please like, subscribe, and go load the boat.